A lot of things we grow inside, we grow same crops inside a hoop house as we do outside a hoop house as well. So on the marketing risks, and we'll go into this in great detail next week, you really need to be paying attention to what's happening around you in the marketing world and know who is selling the same and similar products that you are. If you're considering a new product, figure out what is already out there and do something different. I repeat, do something different. When the competition changes, adapt, adjust, do something different. Stan's Blueberries are a perfect example. He was the only one for a lot of years, and now he's got another large scale in there, blueberry person in there competing with him. Next slide. But he's adapting to that, and he has a reputation. He's well known in the community, and people go back to him for a number of reasons. But knowing who your competition is so important. And I put this picture up here because I've talked to you a bit about flowers and how that has gone through a transition for us at the market over the years. But next week we will spend more time talking about how to assess the competition and how to start thinking about dealing with those marketing risks. Next slide. Oh, and the marketing risks. Yeah, the pumpkins. Next slide. I love those little kids and the pumpkins. I include the pumpkin patch because that is kind of it's a marketing risk for us because we were the only pumpkin patch in town for 7 years, and then that changed. So, and in that change, it became a financial risk. So the planning is crucial for us to minimize those financial risks. We've been working through enterprise assessment and strategic planning and financial planning. All of these are ways that you can reduce your financial risks. Do you know the cost of your production, the break-even costs? You know, we've hammered this into you, and we're going to continue doing that. And this is tax season. How do things look on your taxes this year? Are you comfortable with your level of debt? You know, how is that going for you? I don't know. I just took my taxes into our accountant this week. Next slide. Have you reviewed your farm insurance policy to evaluate risk exposure to having the public come on your property? This is a woman that sells up at the Bonners Ferry Farmers Market, and I love the fact that she's got little overhead. She's doing recycled everything. She's selling worm tea. What an idea. I think I have another poll we might just stick in here real quick. Just helps me get perspective and tells me if you're paying attention.
Okay, great. Here's our second poll. Have you researched the regulatory environment or requirements of your specific products? So about half of our participants have voted. Again, have you researched the regulatory environment or requirements of your specific products? Just give it a couple more seconds. Okay, I'm going to move to close the poll and share the results. So it looks like about 3/4 of the folks on tonight have looked into their regulatory environment and the requirements related to their specific products.
Good, good. You can go ahead and go to the next slide when you get back there. And I want to reiterate that you want to check that every year because things change. I mean, that's the only consistent thing in life, isn't it? Everything changes consistently. And on the legal risks, you really need to be, we may have a phone call conversation with our insurance agent, our and go over our farm insurance policy every year to evaluate risk exposure for having the public on our property. And we have an estimate of how many people we expect to be coming here, and we work with that, work with them to make sure. And we also carry a $2 million policy, and I think ours is like 400, and our whole farm policy. But really looking at the risk associated there, I mean, there's a lot, and I have lots of stories, but no time with that around that electric fence. But we did learn the hard way that you never have an electric fence turned on when you have guests coming. Next slide. Because people oddly will see that electric fence sign and they want to touch it to see if it's really hot. I will never understand that, but that happens. Thinking about human resource and management risks. This is really associated with one, with all the people you have coming on the farm, but also there's some liabilities to do with I'm going back to the marketing aspect, but the liability of direct marketing. If we had one year at the farmer's market, we have one farmer that his produce is typically pretty dirty, and one of his customers broke a crown on a rock from some spinach that they bought, and it was a big deal. And they came back wanting to sue the farmer, then they wanted to sue the farmer's market. Fortunately, we were able to work through that, and it worked out okay. But you think about the management risk and liability aspects of, what happens if, I mean, it's always the what if, but what if your livestock broke down and went over and ate your neighbor's garden, or your goats jump on top of a farm visitor's car, or I know another situation where some people came to visit a farm, not at our farm, but the farm dogs jumped up on their brand new car and scratched it, and the car owner wanted them to pay for a new paint job. Not a good idea. So fortunately they had the liability to cover that. But looking on the human resource and management risk aspects, think about, have you conveyed the goals and objectives of the business to all of your family members? And if you have a working team or employees, sitting down and around robin and really talking about those kind of things is really important. Also, on this human resource aspect of it, really looking at having adequate medical and disability insurance. And is anyone in your family or on your team employed on the farm or working on the farm and actually using their education, training, and experience? I see all the time you have children go off to college, they come back to work on the farm, and they have all this great knowledge, and the family's not letting them use it for whatever reason. So that's kind of a risk management. And if you're going to invest the time and money into sending your kids off to school, at least let them share with you what they're learning when they come back home again. Next slide. Kissing the goat. This is, I can't even remember why I put this picture in here. I guess I just liked it. A couple of our apprentices, 2 U of I students, and we might, when we have the labor piece later in March, we'll talk more about apprentices and having workers on the farm and really focusing on that. And I guess I might have put this here for the risk factor of just whether it's for production or labor. I don't know. I think I just put it here because I liked it. Next slide. I talked about this book a little bit earlier, the Protecting Your Farm or Ranch Guide to Direct Farm Marketing in Idaho. The Rural Roots team and University of Idaho put this together some years ago, and it's a great resource. It's a little outdated, and I think in using it, and the Washington has the green book that is the same thing, and I mentioned this earlier. in using these as a resource, when you go to whatever section you're going to, if you're thinking about doing honey, go to that, or you're thinking about any kind of certification or adding any of those kind of special labeling, there'll be information in there about that. And because it's a little outdated and because the rules and regs change so often, it would be really important. And there's phone numbers in there that you can call. Of course, those numbers have probably changed as well, but I encourage you, as you follow up on those rules and regs that are listed in the book and make those phone calls, one tip I want to give you is anytime you're calling regulatory agencies, always write down the name of the person you're talking to and ask for their direct number so you can call them back and ask for them by name, so you can minimize in the frustration of having to go through it over and over again, because oftentimes it takes more than one phone call to get through to get the information that you need, and it can be really a frustrating situation. So write down their name, get their private number, and follow through with it. Don't not do it. Don't not do it? Yeah, that's what I said. Next slide, please. And this website, the ATRA, again, I referred to this earlier for the checklist that they have. It's a great resource. I go to the ATRA site all the time for any number of things, and if I were to refer you to one resource online, this would be the one. So you got your handouts and utilize this. And with the internet, we have such resources available to us. Next slide. Oh, yay. I'm almost on time. Do we have any questions?
We actually don't have any questions, Diane.
Well,
you must have answered them all.
Well, we're talking about risk, and 75% of the people have gone through that process, so that's a pretty good thing. And I never mind getting done a little bit early, unless you guys have any comments or questions to add. Yay? Nay?
No, I think we're good. I'll have some comments to add as we move into the next slide. So.
Okay.
But maybe, Diane, you'd just like to say a little bit about what's coming up next week.
Well, the market assessment and expansion, Barbara is going to be giving you the hardcore nitty-gritty of market assessment and expansion through the Small Business Association perspective, and then I'm going to take the next step of everything that she covers and tell you how we did it at Green Tree Naturals. So, we always have the technical way to do it, and a lot of times my way just ends up being on a notebook, but we're going to show you some clear perspectives of how things are done. So it'll be a good session.
Great, thank you. Cinda, can we have the next slide, please? So I just wanted to remind you all to do the webinar survey after this webinar. It's really helpful to us to get your feedback, and that the recorded webinar is going to be posted on the course website tomorrow, and the assignments and discussion forum for this week are already active. Your assignment is to go through the USDA checklist for risk that Diane mentioned during her presentation, and then to share some of the ahas that you had from that process in the discussion forum. So Friday, you'll get the invitation for next week's webinar, and the readings and assignments for week 6 will be posted. We're just a little bit more than halfway through the course, so we hope that it's going well for you. If there's any way that I can support you more during the course, please send me an email and let me know. So thanks very much, and again, next slide, Cinda. Please take just a couple minutes to complete the webinar survey that's just following the webinar. Thank you very much and have a great night.